Hello, and welcome back to the Brad and BBD show. I'm Brad.
I'm BBD.
Good afternoon. My lines.
Good afternoon, Bradley.
Good afternoon, BBD. Today we're going to be trading as opposed to usually playing, so let's take a look at my trade binder.
Oh, wow, this is a fantastic trade binder.
I know, I have many of the rares used in Standard right now.
You know, I really need a Sark and the Dragon speaker for my collection.
That was great. I have 3 of them right here.
All right, let's see what I got to trade. I got 2 erases, 3 suspension fields.
And you would probably say we would erase this from the versus videos, but we all know that's not true.
Nope, and we will not suspend this from our memories either, or butcher the rest of this video, or Rhino all over.
All right, let's just stay on course and siege our way through this, all right?
Okay, all right.
Okay, actually, that is the deck that you just saw because I am playing a deck that I like to call Chained to the Rocks.
RHOX.
Yes, that is right. The Rocks, like the Rocks Warmong. Get it? Because Siege Rhino's a rhino and all the Roxes are rhinos, but they're humanoid, so it kind of falls apart at that point.
This is Rhymenoid.
Rhymenoid, yes. Yeah. It does walk on all fours, and that's what Rhymenoid means. So if you ever get into a conversation and they're talking about walking on all fours, you know the word to use.
Yes.
But it is a deck that I built after getting home from GP New Jersey and not getting much sleep. And I woke up in the middle of the night, and I was like, you know what? I want to build a deck that goes Siege Rhino into Sarkhan and has Chained to the Rocks in it. And I just worked on it, and it started to actually be good. And I played it daily and crushed, played an 8-man and crushed it. And right now I've got a really good record. So you guys will most definitely have seen it at the Open in Richmond last weekend, and I don't know how I finished. But since, you know, time travel, and we recorded this before Richmond, we're giving it a shot here. BBD is skeptical.
Oh, yeah. I'm very skeptical.
He's very skeptical, and the deck does need a little bit more refining, maybe a couple mana base changes, but the initial results have been mind-blowing for me. So I'm going to play it in a versus video with BBD playing what I think might be a bad matchup, Jeskai.
Okay, we'll see. Yep.
But let's talk about the deck, actually. So the basic idea of decks like this is just to jam all the best cards into one shell.
Yeah. Since
all the other decks are 3-color decks, and the mana is so good in this format that the likelihood that the mana works a little bit worse than 3-color decks is not that bad, actually. Like, it's sometimes going to be slightly worse. But what I found, actually, is the mana works, and when I don't have a Sylvan Caryatid, I'm kind of just this good stuff deck, much like a Seal Pool with 8 rares, where I have a lot of removal, a lot of good cards. I got to play this control game, but I'm taking over the game. But when I have this card, I just go bananas, and it's just like thing, kill your thing, you're dead.
So one thing that really disappoints me a lot is you have 4 commons and 2 uncommons in your deck.
I know, along with basic lands.
Yeah, I am real like.
No, I mean,
if you're gonna play a 4-color deck, it should just be mono mythics and rares.
I mean,
right?
that's the entire sideboard is all rares and mythics.
Okay, good. All right, at least there's some hope.
I know that it is sad that I have a combined total of 18 commons or uncommons in the deck.
Yeah.
Including these, and it's not all rares, but what can you do, right? It's not like these aren't premium removal spells in the format and are really good already.
It's true, but
yeah, the deck is just all high-octane gas. Just really good magic cards. Zach Hill would definitely approve of this deck. But when I played it, I learned some really cool things about the deck, and we'll just talk about some of them. For one, it beats the other mid-range decks just because your removal is efficient and your threats are really good. But here's some curves that I've done just so you can get a taste of it. Like, all you out there are just salivating right now. It's like, I'm just going to take like my 3 decks and put them in together, you know?
Yeah.
Yes, for one, this is not good for Unified Constructed for the World Cup.
No,
for anyone that's trying to gather information for that tournament, I would not play this deck.
Maybe it is because it just takes like, oh, you're only playing 2 Absent Charms in your junk deck? Let me take the other 2 for this one.
Your junk deck?
Oh, yeah. Well, you're only playing... ooh, awkward, yeah.
Yeah, but so one of the great things that this deck can do is... I have been on turn 3 Rhino. My opponent just plays like a Courser off a Caryatid, and I've just played Butcher, sacked my Sylvan, and it was just like, all right, you're at 8, and you're staring down 2 big monsters. You have to kill one, and if I have a Sarkhan to follow it up with, or even just some of my removal. Also in the late games, in the mirror matches in game 1, I have found that just a late game Goblin Rabmaster, when we just attrition each other out, can close a game really fast, and it just needs an immediate answer. And that's kind of how the deck sideboards as well in those matchups. But, yeah, cool factor, Bish being able to lead off of this land into this land into this Crack Mountain Crackling Doom your opponent, like I had all my opponents just like, what just happened? Because this is such a standard start. Chain of the Rock actually is awesome in this deck. Yes, you only have 9. Well, you only have 3 mountains, but you do have 6 fetches, and these fetches work well with this mana base to get all 4 colors. Like, obviously, if you ever get both of these, you have all 4 colors, and this, with only these, look weird, but you're a red-based fetch deck, so, like, these, like, if you just have both of these and a mountain, you can cast, like, almost all of your spells.
Yeah, and like, you see that you're not fetching, you can't fetch white sources with the fetch lands, but all your come to play tap lands produce white, so, you know, you're going to have your white mana from that, and then you can get whatever other colors you need from the fetch lands.
And one of the reasons that I built the mana this way is, yes, I want my white to come into play tap because it is not the most important color to be like, oh, I need to draw white to win this game. They all cost 1 mana each. There's no doubles except for Elspeth, but that's really late in the game.
Yeah.
And the colors that you want to untap with most aggressively are green and red. Like, you're going to want to go tap land, one of the tap lands into Wooded Foothills to catch your Sylvan Carrots every time. If it's this, you just go grab a forest. If it's this, you grab a mountain. Same with like your Sarkans. They're really good late, and they want the second red to come into play sometimes.
Yeah.
Same with like Goblin Rabblemaster. But the deck does look a little strange, and there isn't a lot of synergy, so I'm not going to say there is, but we're just playing some of the biggest and most powerful cards in the format. Like, this is the reason that I played Mardu. This is the reason that I played Red-White, and this is one of the best cards in Rabble, and this is the reason that the format looks the way it is.
Yeah.
And so you just combine it all, and it comes out
like,
to
this is the reason
sweet.
For the season, you know.
This reason for the season, yes. Yeah. But yeah, the main deck's off the chain, so I wonder what the sideboard looks like.
Probably rocks.
It does rock. All right, so in the sideboard we have one of the oldest, coolest cards from last season, Xenagos the Reveler. He has not been partying much lately in Standard.
No, he is not.
Which is shocking because there really isn't a deck for him. For example, like Xenagos is amazing in this deck against a lot of the mid-range decks, a lot of the whip decks, but a green-red strategy doesn't want a card like Xenagos because they can't actually kill the big monsters that the opponent is presenting, whereas this deck just has the most beautiful removal against those decks. Like, actually the best. Like, against a green deck, you have Chain of the Rocks, and you have
Crackalack.
A Crackalack. And Abzan Charm. All 3 are just very good at killing the mid-range creatures, which lets Xenagos just take over games. So, like, Xenagos has been the most high-impact card in my sideboard, along with the Zajani as well. These cards have just been very good for me. Elspeth, again, I don't know if I like the main deck one, but I do want access to 2 in the deck, so I'm trying out if 1/1's better than 2 in the sideboard. Dune Blast has also just been phenomenal for me.
Seems really good with Xenagos, too.
It's very good with Xenagos. Just tick up with your 1 or 2 guys in play. Maybe you're like Goblin token that's left over, and you have a Xenagos, or the Xenagos token you made last turn. Yep. Just being able to do that. Also, Doom Blast is just a very powerful effect against a lot of these mid-range decks when things get out of control. And just saying that I have access to Doom Blast means that people can't really pressure you, and because they can't pressure you, you have such aggressive planeswalkers against them that play 2 roles. Like, Xenagos is just aggressive, but it chump blocks. And Sarkhan can either kill a creature or start attacking the air. So if you have a board of Xenagos and Sarkhan, this card is phenomenal. And I'm not going to lie, I have had 6 mana Sarkhan Xenagos before. Make it a guy,
Doom
blow
Blast.
up the world, and attack you for 4. But a couple Thoughtseizes are for when you're on the draw. There's matchups like any green decks, you just don't actually want Rabble-Masters on the draw because they're just kind of get brickwalled immediately. And you want to be a bigger deck anyway. So I will bring in Thoughtseize, but on the play in those matchups, I'm just jamming my Rabble-Masters and not even trying to take any cards out of their hand.
Yeah.
So you just want a little bit of a boost in the early game. And a good stuff deck gets to warp its deck whichever way it wants, depending on play and draw, and that's another reason why I love this deck, because there is no synergy. You just swap magic cards, and you just make your curve lower and more efficient in some matchups and bigger, and just have haymakers in others. The 4 Angers is because I respect not only Jeskai, but I definitely respect Green Devotion and Mono Red. And those are matchups where Rabble-Master's not that good anyway. So I just want to blow up the board in the early turns. Caryatid sometimes can get stuck under an Anger of the Gods, but that's fine, because if you're actually angering when you have a Caryatid, that means whatever big spell you have in your hand is not getting you back into this game.
Yeah.
So you are just blowing up their board. Same with the 2 Utter Ends. I like having removal for big Planeswalkers, for any of their hard-to-deal-with permanents, and a lot of the games against big mana decks or green 3-color go long decks is either they have whips or other permanents that you want to deal with, and they go long, so you just want very efficient spells to draw off the top of your deck, and this deck is just filled with even more of them than they have. So they want to play this game, we will just play it better than them, with even bigger and better spells, because we have access to 4 color of spells as opposed to just 3. So we just have phenomenal late game against all these decks. We have Ajani, Elspeth, Sarkans, and Xenagos. They want to play a Planeswalker Wrath game, we're going to beat them at it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even going to come close. And that's what I found. It is embarrassing what this deck can do to Abzan when they board into their like control plan, when they don't want to just go aggressive against you. You just beat them on every single point. It's just like, oh, I have a Courser. I play a Rhino. I'm like, okay, Crackling Doom that, untap, Sarkhan, kill your thing. What do you got? You know, okay, I'll just spend my entire turn killing your thing. I'm like, okay, Butcher, yeah, sack my thing, attack you, or play another Xenagos and attack you. But anyway, guys, that is the Goofy deck. I bet your expectations of it are higher than they will ever be right now in this versus video.
Yeah.
But let's see what happens.
All right, let's battle it up.